I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Speaking of traffic, right now got a crash in Williamson County, 65 northbound just past Concord Road there in Brentwood. A small town one state over from Tennessee's on edge after a man wanted for multiple murders was spotted.
Morrilton, Arkansas is not far from the Oklahoma community where Stacy Lee Drake is thought to have killed a woman and man and taken their car. Taylor Hickman says Morrilton, population 7,000, is on edge.
It's a small town. A lot of people leave like their doors unlocked and stuff. We didn't even know. We just thought we were still in paradise.
The 50-year-old Drake was spotted buying camping equipment in Morrilton Wednesday. He hasn't been seen since.
Jim Ryan says Drake's wanted for a murder warrant in his home state of Alabama, too. In our nation's capital, Terry Moran says the Supreme Court's expected to come out with some major decisions as early as today in key cases involving former President Trump, January 6th, and abortion.
The justices still have about 21 cases left to decide. That's typical for this time of year. Among them, that blockbuster abortion case out of Idaho. This is the biggest abortion case the court has taken since it overturned Roe versus Wade. And then there's the major case on presidential immunity. Donald Trump is claiming that he is absolutely immune from criminal prosecution for any of his actions trying to overturn the 2020 election, including January 6th, because Trump argues presidents cannot be prosecuted for any official acts they took while in office.
Money News, a financial services company says Nashvillians pay 16% more than the national average on household bills, 27% more than the rest of the state. Doxo Insights Cost of Bills Index says the typical Nashville household pays $2,457 a month or $29,478 a year for the 10 most common bills. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
9:07 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? Good morning. It's Chris Hand. You can listen to the show wherever you go today with the iHeartRadio app or the TuneIn app. We're always available on that. Just search for Super Talk 99.7. You can listen to the podcast or share them with your friends on Spotify and Apple. And you can find me on Twitter, True Social, and Instagram at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. I kind of want to kick off today with a tweet that I received. Somebody sent me a tweet at Chris Hand on Air and said that they're pretty worried. They're pretty worried about George Soros taking over radio stations. And I've covered this before. When the Soros fund management bought up $400 million of debt of the radio company Odyssey in February. And I understand the fears, and I feel like we should address it one more time, because it appears that Biden's FCC is helping George Soros fast-track takeover of massive radio network. That's the headline from the Post-Millennial. So it's in the news again. Democrat billionaire philanthropist George Soros has been on a mission to complete his takeover of the nation's second-largest radio network, and he's attempting to complete the task with help from the FCC, which is controlled by Democrats. The takeover of Odyssey comes right before the 2024 presidential election. The radio network is home to prominent conservative pundits and commentators such as Sean Hannity, Dana Loesch, Mark Levin, Glenn Beck, and Soros' stake in the company amounts to 40% of the company's senior debt. Sources familiar with the matter told the New York Post. One Republican source said it's scary, and he added that Soros may be able to impose influence over the most conservative hosts on the network. Maybe. So again, it was back in February. Soros Fund Management bought up $400 million of debt in Odyssey. Odyssey is the second largest broadcast company. They own 220 stations nationwide. They reach 165 million monthly listeners. And to complete the acquisition, Soros needs an exemption from the FCC because the money being used to buy the bankrupt network comes from abroad. And current FCC law states that foreign ownership of U.S. radio stations is not allowed to exceed 25%. And as we said just a moment ago, he's looking for 40%. Soros Fund Management filed for an exemption to the rule, and both the FCC Commissioner Brandon Carr as well as Chip Roy out of Texas sounded the alarm bells on the deal. Carr asserted that the FCC should not create a special Soros shortcut. When it comes to broadcast station acquisition of this size and magnitude, hundreds of radio stations across more than 45 markets, the FCC needs to run its full and normal review process, Carr added. The FCC should not be skipping steps or waiving required agency processes. Roy wrote earlier in April that the Soros-funded group would usually have to petition to have any foreign source of funding vetted before they make a move to acquire that kind of stake in the company. But the exemption could push that sometime down the road, indicating that those foreign stakeholders will be given special warrants in the meantime. So Soros Fund Management has made significant strides in the American radio industry over the past 2 years. In 2022, they brokered with Univision's $60 million sale, made a major investment into Crooked Media, a prominent liberal podcast network. Last year, Soros acquired the far-left Vice Media for $400 million alongside Fortress Investment Group. It went bankrupt. Vice went bankrupt after they went too woke. Vice Media, I mean, they bought it for $400 million, but it used to be worth $5.7 billion. Like Vice is the definition of go woke, go broke. And additionally, a 2023 study revealed that Soros is responsible for funding of at least 54 of the most influential liberal mainstream media figures in the world. So I understand the concerns about Soros buying up radio stations. I do. But I've done the market analysis on Odyssey. And they don't have many news properties in many major markets. They don't. They don't. And then when you look at the news properties and you look at, okay, well, which ones are like conservative news or which ones are already leaning left, well, then you dilute that pool even more. So currently, markets that Odyssey owns with news stations, right? So these are the cities where Odyssey owns news stations. They have New Orleans, Detroit, Minneapolis, Kansas City, St. Louis, Las Vegas, Buffalo, New York, Philly, Pittsburgh, Scranton, and Richmond. Okay? That's the markets that have news station currently. But the majority of these are already left-leaning or woke. So if Soros acquires them, is it going to change anything? Is it going to affect it at all? I'd imagine some. But the majority of these stations are already left. The two that really jump out to me are Richmond and St. Louis, okay? I worked in the building in Richmond. I know the guys over at WRVA, which they would be affected. But I'll tell you a secret. Richmond is a blue cesspool already, the city. And the signal on that Richmond, Virginia radio station, WRVA, is super weak, like really, really weak. It is nothing, like a lot of times we imagine that every radio station is going to have as strong of a signal as WTN. WRVA, even though it's somewhat conservative, and I say conservative in the sense where I don't think they're going to go on the air and say Trump is good, but they'll go on the air and say Obama's bad. You know what I mean? Like that kind of conservative. The signal for WRVA in Richmond, which George Soros could be in control of, it really only covers downtown. That's it. You drive from the airport, you can't hear it. You go through the city, you get it a little bit staticky, and as soon as you're on the other side of the city, it's gone again. The signal's not big at all. St. Louis also jumped out to me because they're the other major market conservative station, and the thing that really says to me is it's St. Louis. Like, I know we don't want to lose any ground, but I don't know how much ground this station has already. And you look at the programming, and it's mostly syndicated. It's not a live and local station. Now I understand we don't want to lose anything. But those are the only two real radio stations that are conservative that I think this could even possibly affect, if it affects it at all. The other markets, I mean, when you look at Pittsburgh or Detroit, like I've worked in both of these markets as well. And the stations that they own in those markets, far left. WWJ in Detroit, it's already woke. KDKA in Pittsburgh, already woke. So do I think this is something to keep an eye on? Absolutely. But as far as talk radio goes, unless you're in a leftist hellhole, woke radio doesn't work. So they're just going to bleed listeners if they change the programming. And in this day and age, with all the alternatives for conservative media, I'm not sure that this hits the same as it would have, I don't know, in 2001, 2002, 1990, 1980. It's not the same. And if they're going to try and really platform more prominent liberal podcasters and radio hosts, it's like who? Name a prominent liberal radio host. Exactly. The only one that I know of for sure that garners any headlines is Jimmy Dore. And I don't see him being platformed by anybody because he goes outside of the box from the left too often. So I think that the headline seems scary. I don't think the actual reality of it is as scary as it seems. But we don't want George Soros owning them anyway, right? I think we can all agree we don't want George Soros owning a major stake in the largest radio company, the second largest radio company in the country. That's easy. Easy to say. But I don't think that it's going to change the game of talk radio the same way that some of these headlines seem to fearmonger. And I could be wrong. I could. But when the news article that the Post Millennial has says, you know, Odyssey is home to prominent conservative voices like Dana Loesch or Sean Hannity or Mark Levin or Glenn Beck, it's like, okay, if they lost Odyssey, do you think that they would lose their platform or lose their voice? No, of course not. Of course not. It wouldn't affect them at all. They'd be platformed somewhere else very, very quickly. Do I think Hannity or Dana Loesch or Mark Levin or Glenn Beck is going to let George Soros influence their programming? Absolutely not. They're too big. They're too strong. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. That's not to say that George Soros buying a stake in Odyssey is a good thing. It's not. But I'm having trouble finding where this major shift is going to be in Odyssey, a company that already leans left, that barely has any conservative talk radio properties. How is it going to change things? William in Nashville, maybe you can tell me, how would this change things?
Well, I understand what you mean. Maybe George Soros, even in this case, cannot change things. But as I see it, we should be thinking offensively instead of defensively. What are we doing to buy radio stations? You know, all day long we all complain about the Democratic operatives and all the horrible things they're doing. And I appreciate what you do. You're making people aware. But ultimately, we have to do something about it. It's one thing if the barn's on fire. It's another thing if we all just stand there and watch the damn thing burn. We got to do something. Where are the Koch brothers? Why aren't they buying radio stations, for instance? I'm going to hang up and listen to your answer. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I don't know. Maybe you can respond while you're here. I don't know if I would want the Koch brothers buying radio stations either. I don't know if I want political influence at the top of major radio properties.
I think that's a fair point. I think the FCC has that law in place for a reason. But the fact is, as you have implied, the Democratic operatives, including Joe Biden, may easily find a way around that ruling in the quiet hours in Washington, D.C., when all the bad shit happens.
Oh, yep, we got to dump that. Can't use that word on the air. I hear what you're saying, though. I will say this, William, and I appreciate your call, man. You know, you look at some of these prominent conservative personalities. Tucker Carlson got fired and became even stronger, texts in 1215. You know, and when you look at political operatives, and William brought up, why aren't the Koch brothers buying radio stations? I said, I don't want them either. We have Paul Ryan at the head of Fox News. Has that helped anything? Has that changed things? In fact, a lot of people are very upset about Paul Ryan and Fox News. Donald Trump wants him removed from the board. Steve Bannon went full scorched earth on him yesterday during his episode of The War Room. Just because they're on our side doesn't mean we want them at the top either. I don't want George Soros at the top of Odyssey. I don't want Paul Ryan at the top of Fox News. But, you know, I'm hoping for more utopia than anything else, right? This is a dream scenario. But if George Soros gets hold of Odyssey, is that going to change anything? I'm not sure. I hate to break it to you. The overwhelming majority of radio already, super woke. And it's not just because of George Soros being at the top. It's because of advertisers. That's what pushes this. A lot of advertisers are, you know, guys like Big Pharma. That dictates a lot. And that's, you know, you look at advertisers, you look at lawsuits, you look at fears. That's what really dictates the programming. Honestly. Does George Soros worry me? No. I would prefer to focus on getting our own conservative outlets back, like having Paul Ryan be removed from Fox News. I have details on Donald Trump essentially saying he should be removed from the board. I have audio from Steve Bannon just going scorched earth on him. I got that for you next. Hang out with us. It's 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Stop and go traffic northbound 65 between Cool Springs Boulevard and Old Hickory Boulevard. It's about a 15-minute delay. And a man with an active homicide warrant in his home state of Alabama, now suspected of killing at least 2 people in Oklahoma and hiding out in Arkansas. We've got that for you at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 9:27 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So what's better? Fake conservatives at the head of conservative companies or real, genuine, woke liberals at the head of radio companies? You see, we were talking about George Soros possibly fast-tracking his purchase of 40% stake in Odyssey, which is the second largest radio company in the country. I'm not sure it's going to affect programming that much. I tend to think that they're already leaning left and woke. But somebody made the comment, why doesn't the Koch brothers start buying radio stations? I said, I don't want them buying radio stations. We have political guys on the board at some major news networks already. And it's not working out for us. Paul Ryan, he's at the head of Fox News. He's on the board. He's essentially running the joint with the Murdochs. People don't like that. Do you like that? Donald Trump doesn't like that. He went off on Paul Ryan, criticizing him and Fox News. And he says that Fox News is very disloyal for keeping Paul Ryan, said, get that dog off your board. Trump criticized former House Speaker Paul Ryan as very disloyal and called for Rupert Murdoch and his son, Lachlan Murdoch, to get Ryan off their board. In a post to Truth Social, the former president ripped into Ryan, who is a Fox Corporation Board of Directors member, calling him a weak and ineffective rhino. Trump's post comes after Ryan gave an interview on June 11th on Fox News channel's Your World, stating that Trump was unfit for office. Unfit. Trump went on Truth Social, said, nobody can ever trust Fox News, and I am one of them. With that weak and ineffective rhino, Paul Ryan, on its board of directors, Trump wrote, he's a total lightweight, a failed and pathetic Speaker of the House, and a very disloyal person. Romney was bad, but Paul Ryan made him look worse. As a team, they never had a chance. I love to see it. Can you imagine where we've come from? In 2012, Paul Ryan was the future of the Republican Party. He was that young upstart that was going to lead conservatives to the promised land. And look at him now. A weak, ineffective, disloyal rhino. I got more on what Trump thinks about Paul Ryan, plus Steve Bannon going off about him in the war room yesterday. Hang out with us. It's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And a man with an active homicide warrant in Alabama now suspected of killing at least 2 people in Oklahoma. And now authorities think 50-year-old Stacey Lee Drake's hiding out in the woods about 50 miles north of Little Rock, Arkansas. 51 counties in South Texas now under disaster declarations due to Tropical Storm Alberto, the storm spawning tornado sightings there in southern Texas. And the Supreme Court expected to come out with some major decisions as early as today in key cases involving former President Trump, Jan 6, and abortion rights.
There are hundreds of members of the mob that attacked the Capitol on January 6 who say they have been improperly charged in their cases before the court. They say that the law prosecutors used was designed for business and financial crimes. And there are also major cases on homeless encampments, on social media, regulating social media, on guns for domestic abusers. So there's big news coming out of the Supreme Court in the coming weeks.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. I saw a headline the other day that your AC costs this year because of Biden inflation are going to be the highest in 10 years. Yikes. Well, don't let that be a cause of your AC not running at maximum peak efficiency. Maybe you could shave a couple dollars off your bill by getting your AC maintained to be running the right way, the Busy Bee way, with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. These are the guys who I call whenever I have an issue with Busy Bee. I've been talking about their hats that they sent in. It says "Making AC Great Again." That's what they do at Busy Bee. My kids love the hats. I'm gonna post one on Twitter today so that way you guys can see what I'm talking about. It looks like a MAGA hat, but it's about making AC great again. And that's what they do at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And one of the ways they do it is with the Beehive Club. If you're not a member of the Beehive Club, it's time to get on board. It's only $99, and it pays for itself instantly. Instantly. When you become a member of the Beehive Club, you get so much value. 3 annual tune-ups, 1 for your heating, 1 for your cooling, 1 for your plumbing. You get a 10% discount on all repairs. You get priority front-of-the-line service should anything go wrong with your unit, and a $100 annual accrued replacement credit with a maximum of $1,000. So when it's time to replace that old AC, you've been building up that credit by being in the Beehive Club, and boom, it's taken off the top. Easy. Up to $1,000. Plus, no overtime or holiday fees and exclusive Beehive member promotions. When I tell you it pays for itself, it literally will pay for itself. Become a Beehive Club member today and call Busy Bee for all your AC needs. Busy Bee, your Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833. Online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, 937. We've been covering a couple things this morning. Leftists in control of radio stations. George Soros on the fast track to buy some Odyssey properties. I don't think it's a huge deal. I think the majority of their stations already lean heavily left.
Yeah, the only real big thing I care about for them is if they can come and cover my shift for a little bit, so that way I can go take a little break.
I think it's important to point out. I think it's important to point out we are not Odyssey.
No, absolutely
We will not be owned by the Soroses.
No,
at least not today.
Yeah,
it hasn't been rumored, but we'll see what happens. And then somebody brought up the Koch brothers. Why aren't they buying radio stations? And I don't want the Koch brothers running radio stations. Because bad Republicans are just as bad leftists. I mean, look no further than Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan's on the board for Fox News, and he gets interviews on Fox News, and he says Trump is unfit for office. Unfit for office in 2024, with everything we're up against, a wide open southern border, an economy that's on the brink of collapse. We have World War III playing out before our eyes. Putin and Kim Jong-un, they just hung out yesterday. BFFs forever now. And we're going to go on Fox News and say Trump is unfit for president. Like that's what we get when we have rhinos running conservative outlets. I think the danger is just as high on the other side to go too far the other way. And Paul Ryan's been getting just dragged for this interview he did on Fox News. In his interview, Ryan did make it clear, Paul Ryan, that he doesn't support Joe Biden for president. And he said that Biden's policies are terrible. And he adds that he hates the fact that he feels like he has to write in a Republican like he did during the 2020 presidential election. Yeah, he's got to write somebody in. Is this who we were? Hey, he wants to call himself a Republican. Sure, maybe that's true. Is this a conservative? You're going to write in someone else? You're going to throw away your vote? Spoiler alert, he's probably going to write himself in. He's probably going to write in Paul Ryan. It did say that he voted for Trump in 2016. He was quoted saying, "I voted for him in 2016, hoping that there was going to be a different kind of person in office. And I do think character's a really important issue. If you put yourself above the Constitution as he has done, I think that makes you unfit for office," speaking on Donald Trump. And then on Monday, the editorial board for the New York Post, which is also owned by the Murdochs, who own Fox News, published an article that advocated for North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum to be Trump's pick for vice president. This is they also floated Marco Rubio as a good second option. Murdoch's News Corp owns the New York Post, Dow Jones and Company, which publishes the Wall Street Journal, along with outlets in Australia and the United Kingdom. Murdoch also controls Fox Corporation, which owns Fox News. The article went on to criticize Senator J.D. Vance out of Ohio, writing that he sought to suspend all U.S. aid to Ukraine, and his opposition to abortion goes well past Trump's. That's their criticism of J.D. Vance. It's like, well, I already liked him. You don't have to sell me on the guy. But you can see what happens when we have fake conservatives in power, right? You can see it. And they try to blast Vance, and they say, Vance, by contrast, sought to suspend all U.S. aid to Ukraine. And his opposition to abortion goes well past Trump's. The former Marine turned tech venture capitalist and author is yet to complete even 2 years of public service. Fair enough that at 39 he's still evolving, but he makes us think of what Ann Coulter might be like if she'd gone into elective politics. Plenty bright, solidly right, but a bit erratic. Young and ambitious, he seems the most likely to compete with Trump for attention, destabilizing the campaign. Destabilizing it. And then, Fox News, they sink their teeth into this because they got guys like Paul Ryan on the board. Martha McCallum, who is, I don't know if you can trust Martha McCallum anymore. This is like the second time in a couple weeks where she's done something questionable. She had Doug Burgum on the show, and she essentially tried to bait Burgum into saying that Trump can't win without him. Need a little audio?
So he's losing some traction in the last month since the end of the court case and being found criminal in those 34 counts.
She's referencing a Fox News poll, which again, this is a conservative outlet with Paul Ryan on the board. The latest Fox News poll has Biden ahead by 2 points in a national general election poll.
Which he, of course, is appealing and denies. But he's lost traction with independents during that period. Here's the now versus May. Now Biden is up 2 with independents, and back in May, Trump was up 12 with independents. What do you say to that? And how do you think that maybe you on the ticket might improve his numbers with independents?
So she's already trying to set Burgum up. She's trying to reel him in with some bait. Trump isn't doing good. Maybe you could fix it, Doug Burgum. Doug doesn't take the bait. Spoiler alert.
Well, I think that President Trump's going to win this election regardless of who's on the ticket with him. And I think, of course, again, this is just the strategy that they have, which is lawfare. The Democrats are applying that at multiple levels. I mean, they've been persecuting President Trump since before he was in office the first time. That's what they've been doing. In the end, I don't think it's going to work. Americans understand that this sham trial. I mean, I don't know how you take business filing errors that are misdemeanors beyond their statute of limitations and somehow through alchemy turn those into multiple felonies. I mean, most Americans will just see that for what it is, which is attacking a political opponent in an election year. And in the end of the day, they're going to vote, and he includes independents, because inflation, the border, public safety, all of that affects independents as well.
Doug Burgum doesn't take the bait. But I'm just pointing out, with people worried about Soros, we have fake Republicans in control of Fox News, and nobody seems to bat an eye at it. Nobody seems to worry about it. I think this is far more dangerous to the conservative movement. The biggest news station for conservatives, they have people on their board that think Trump is unfit for office. Do we want to win in November? I think we need to clean our own house before we worry about Soros. I mean, Fox News yesterday is saying Donald Trump is losing ground. He's losing momentum. He's losing steam. They're pushing this narrative. What are we talking about here? Even NBC's Chuck Todd says the Trump we're looking at currently is hitting 2016 energy.
I don't mean to simplify this, but, Donald Trump's rhetoric even his sort of swagger looks more like 2016.
His swagger looks like 2016. Fox News says he's losing momentum. NBC says his swagger looks like 2016. But which way? I tend to lean in Chuck Todd's direction on this case.
In the campaign you covered so closely, Katie, then he looks in 2020. And in fact, I was just discussing this with somebody we all know on this call, on this program. I'm going to leave his name out of it because he didn't know I was going to quote him just now. But he even noted, we were talking about this idea that when Trump's losing, the worst version of Trump shows up. And when Trump's winning, or he thinks he's ahead, he's actually a different person, a different candidate. I mean, I think Vaughn could probably speak to this now. The Donald Trump in Detroit and those events he did, he was oddly loose. He was trying to be funny and all of this, where...
I mean, weird. Didn't have this on my bingo card. Agreeing with Chuck Todd. I was in Detroit. Loose, funny, sharp, energetic. I was walking out of the Detroit Convention Center, and I'm flanked by patriots to my left, patriots to my right, and I'm just listening to people as they're walking away, and they're commenting on how electric the speech was. Trump was on fire. I was hanging on every word. These are things I literally heard with my own ears from attendees, not from employees working, from people who were there to see him. The energy's there. Fox News says he's losing momentum. Chuck Todd doesn't agree. I don't either.
From about 2017 to 2022, we had, and even 2023 through the primaries, it's been nothing but angry grievance Trump, right? Angry, angry, angry. It's interesting if he somehow drops the grievance, but he could end up looking more like that 2016 candidate where he's the outside disruptor.
He's looking more like the 2016 candidate where he's the outside disruptor. He's getting more fair coverage on NBC by Chuck Todd right here than he is with Fox News' Martha McCallum. So people are worried about Soros buying radio stations. I'm worried about rhinos in control of conservative news stations. I think that the rhinos are far more of a danger to us. Steve Bannon thinks the exact same thing, and he's talking about Paul Ryan yesterday on the War Room, and he says, well, when has Paul Ryan stood up and fought for anything?
Have the Paul Ryan acolytes tell me anything in your life. Give me a fight that you stood in the breach in. On Billy Bush weekend, where they tried to smear you stood? No, you cut and ran.
You know, the infamous grabber by the you-know-what tape? You cut and ran.
When we're coming into the close in 16 to stop the Clintons from taking over with Merrick Garland, the Supreme Court, think about that for a second. It's all in the balance. That's the defining moment. In war, it comes down to a couple of minutes that defines you forever. And in that moment, you showed your character. You ran and hid in Wisconsin. You would not have us come to Wisconsin, and you said, I will get Johnson, and it will be a humiliation. You can't come. That's character, bro.
That's Paul Ryan's character. Steve Bannon calling him out on running, cutting bait and running in 2016 when the going got tough. That's Paul Ryan. He calls him out on running away in 2018 as well.
Let me give you character about 2018. You cut and ran on an individual who worked a tax cut, was trying to build a wall, and gave us peace and prosperity. You cut and ran. So please, Murdoch, Lachlan, James, any of you, Jesse Waters, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, give it to me. Show me where the guy Paul Ryan has ever had any character when it mattered. When you're in the middle of a fight and you don't know how it's going to turn out. And it could go the other way on you. That's character in the defining moment. In the defining moment of his political life, every time there's a crisis, he runs. And you're going to have him sit there and lecture us.
And he does. He says Trump is unfit for office. He's unfit for office. So for everybody worried about the Soroses of the world, I think we need to clean our own rooms first, personally. Because the biggest conservative news outlet out there, they have a member of their board of directors going on TV and saying Trump is unfit for office. In 2024, after a successful first term with no new wars, record low unemployment, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? Do we need to go through all of the Trump accomplishments for Paul Ryan to say that he's anything but unfit for office? Oh, does he says mean things? Does he hurt your feelings, Paul? Probably. I mean, that's probably what it boils down to. Paul Ryan's soft. He can't take criticism, and Trump probably hurt his feelings at some point, and he's not enough of a man to get over it. Steve Bannon demands Fox News get rid of him.
And the Murdochs are disgusting. And if you watch Fox, you're supporting it. Why is he not off the board of directors? Why is he there?
Nobody knows. I mean, he's there for a paycheck. He's not there for his conservative perspective. I can tell you that much. But Bannon continues. This is not normal politics that we're in this current age. And Paul Ryan is exactly the kind of Republican that the left likes.
Because this is not an era of normal politics. What are you missing? Why do you think Rachel Maddow, they're not sad, and she doesn't cry when Paul Ryan is up there? That's what they want. They want to go back to the controlled opposition and just have the country taken. With those guys just whistling along and going to conferences and, going out to, Palm Springs and having a conference. And we're going to talk about tax cuts and budgets as we approve the spending time and time and time again in the forever wars, time and time and time again.
The left loves status quo conservatives. The progressives that drive the speed limit. That's who they have on their board over at Fox News. Spoiler alert. So when everybody worries about George Soros, I worry about what we have to deal with on our side. It's 9:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Still got that massive manhunt in a state over. Supreme Court decisions expected as soon as today. Animal cruelty in a car with the windows up and not running. Coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. Hey, quick programming note. 11:05 today, Don McLean of American Pie fame is going to be joining the show. He's going to be calling in and talking about his new album. And I wanted to give you the opportunity, if you have any question you've ever wanted to ask Don McLean, text it to me, 615-737-9986. I'll put it on my list, and I'll make sure to ask him. We're gonna have a fun conversation. I've been doing lots of research.
I'm excited. It's going to be a good show for sure.
Yeah. Did you know
Good
that
interview.
The South Korean president sang American Pie just a couple years ago?
That we might need to pull that audio just so we can hear it.
We might.
If he hasn't listened to it recently.
I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask him if he knew that the president before was removed from office and sentenced to prison for being, part of a shamanistic witch cult.
That's
I'm going to see what his thoughts are on
interesting.
that. I'm going to see what he thinks.
He's got the inside scoop.
I'm dying to hear it straight from Don McLean's mouth. Hang out with us. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And now we've got a crash just north of downtown. It's 65 southbound at Trinity Lane. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. A small town one state over is on edge because authorities believe a suspected killer is hiding out in the woods nearby.
50-year-old Stacy Lee Drake is accused of carjacking and killing a man and woman in eastern Oklahoma Tuesday. Hunter McKee is with the state's Bureau of Investigation.
He is considered armed and dangerous, and we need to make sure that nobody else is hurt.
Drake was next spotted buying camping gear in Morrilton, Arkansas, where Michelle Cheek owns a restaurant.
He could have been here last night at the bar for all we know.
Drake is a convicted felon with a rap sheet that includes burglary, kidnapping, armed robbery, and aggravated assault against an officer.
Yeah, he's got a homicide warrant out for his arrest in his home state of Alabama. Supreme Court expected to come out with some major decisions as early as today in key cases involving former President Trump, Jan 6ers, and abortion rights. Here's Terry Moran.
Among them, that blockbuster abortion case out of Idaho. It pits that state's ban on abortions unless necessary to prevent death against a federal law that guarantees that any person who comes to an emergency room gets emergency care, even in those rare and tragic cases when emergency care might mean the termination of a pregnancy. This is the biggest abortion case the court has taken since it overturned Roe versus Wade, and it could have impact on abortion bans across the country.
Right now in Tennessee, a case of animal cruelty, almost a 2-hour drive east of Nashville in Jackson County. News 2 says Marissa Wheeler is accused of intentionally placing her boyfriend's dog in a hot car. The two had argued before it happened. The boyfriend discovered his dog 7 hours later with the windows up, the car not running, and the dog dead. Wheeler accused of then trying to revive the dog by putting it in a 50-gallon tank of water. Authorities are charging her with aggravated animal cruelty. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
10:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. How are you? You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. You can take us with you wherever you go. You just use the iHeartRadio or the TuneIn app or our own WTN app, available in the App Store, available in the Google Play Store, or you can always check the podcasts as well on Spotify and Apple. Mason is busy getting up the podcast now. We try to do it as soon as the segment's done. So if you want to share the George Soros, Paul Ryan segment with anybody, you can find it on Apple and Spotify and send it their way. For anybody that's worried about George Soros taking over, like radio stations in America, remind them, we got to deal with the rhinos that own, are in control of our outlets.
And if you definitely don't see it during our show, it's most likely going to be up by noon because we want you to stick around for at least a little bit so you stay listening with us here.
Fair enough. Subscribe to the podcast. Give it 5 stars. Do it for me. If you don't want to do it for me, do it for my kids because, metrics and all the things. So find me, Chris Hand, on air, all over the place, and link up. I'll follow back. As we continue the show, we're 1 week away from the debate. Are you as excited as I am for the debate of all debates? It's the earliest debate that I can ever remember, and I'm pumped. 1 week away. Biden has entered debate camp. He's down at Camp David for debate camp. He's beginning a full week of preparing. Could you imagine having to be the guy that helps Biden prepare for that? Like, I imagine it would be easier to be a preschool teacher with a room of like 30 feral toddlers. You know what I mean?
I feel like he's trying to find a way that how can I fold up these big cue cards so I could sneak into the back of the room and hold them up with a flashlight on them or something.
No prepared notes is one of the rules. No prepared notes. So
I know he's trying real hard.
The resident and his team of advisors are they're secluded in a rural setting for intensive preparation and coaching in the days before heading directly to the June 27th debate hosted by CNN in Atlanta. That's according to ABC. Preparing, coaching. How many debates has Joe Biden done? I thought Jill Biden told us that he's great because of his age and his wisdom. How much coaching and prep does he need then? He's done this before. Multiple times as vice president, as running for president, and now as resident. How much prep does he need? I do feel for the guys that have to get him ready. According to a campaign official, Ron Klain, Biden's former chief of staff, is leading the debate camp preparations at the presidential retreat. Other senior campaign aides and longtime advisors, including Cedric Richmond, a former White House aide and current campaign co-chair, will also be on hand, the ABC News report notes. If elected, Biden's going to be 86 when he completes his second term. Yikes. Meanwhile, CNN reports Trump advisors are kind of wary of using the words debate prep when it comes to Trump getting ready. Trump's consistently downplayed the notion that he requires the type of preparation that other candidates, specifically Biden, need for this debate. Trump's team has said the former president will not be doing traditional prep ahead of the public showdown. They said Trump takes on numerous tough interviews every single week and delivers lengthy rally speeches while standing, demonstrating elite stamina. That was Trump's senior advisor, Jason Miller, telling the Associated Press. Ahead of the Atlanta debate, CNN reports that Trump plans to hold a campaign rally in Philadelphia, a city Biden has already visited several times this year as he works to replicate his 2020 victory in Pennsylvania. I can't wait to see the crowd size at the rally in Philadelphia. This is what's so brilliant about Trump. He's going into deep blue territories. Biden was in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, and he had a half-empty high school gymnasium. A half-empty high school gymnasium. They did the close-up shot. They wanted to make it look like a big crowd. But I wonder, not even wonder, I can't wait to see the tally on how many people show up for a Trump rally in Philadelphia. I bet you it is going to blow the numbers Biden could draw out of the water. And Philadelphia is supposed to be a deep blue stronghold for the Democrats. You know, Trump is going to have multiple times as many people. It's just how big is he going to run up the score? How big? Can't wait for that. This is the first. I can't wait also for next week. I mean, first scheduled of the debates between the two candidates. The second one's going to be hosted by ABC News on September 10th. The Biden campaign previously announced the president would debate Trump only in June and September without live audiences present. We went over the rule changes. No pre-prepared notes. Mics are going to be muted. All these things that we've discussed. One thing that we did discuss is RFK going to qualify? CNN said that there was still time for RFK Jr. to qualify. It seems that those hopes have been squashed for the RFK campaign. The independent candidate claimed he had met the requirements, but an investigation by the Washington Post found otherwise. RFK has failed to meet the requirements to be a part of the upcoming CNN presidential debate. He did claim that he had appeared on enough state ballots to appear on the stage alongside Donald Trump and Joe Biden, but the Washington Post found that he has not yet reached that threshold. To take part in the CNN debate, they required contestants to be eligible to win at least 270 electoral votes, the number needed to take the presidency. As of Wednesday, RFK Jr. only appears on 5 state ballots, which, of course, doesn't meet that threshold. It only tallies up to about 42 electoral votes. Petitions or nominations have been filed in an additional 11 states. However, even if those are certified by the debate deadline, he would only have potentially 241 electoral votes. So his application in the remaining 34 states, which hold 297 electoral votes, are still in progress. The Post reports that Kennedy argued that because Trump and Biden hadn't been officially named the nominees by their respective parties, they technically did not have any potential electoral votes. CNN said, because they were the presumptive nominees and major party candidates don't need to ask states to appear on ballots, his argument didn't stand. Kennedy did release a statement to the Post. A Kennedy campaign spokesperson said, the bottom line is he is eligible for more electoral votes than both President Trump and Biden. Again, leaning on the fact that they haven't been named the nominee yet. CNN spokesperson dispelled that notion, explaining that the mere application for ballot access does not guarantee that he will appear on the ballot in any state. They added that even if Kennedy did, he still does not currently meet the polling criteria, which, like the other objective criteria, were set before issuing invitations to the debate. Kennedy claimed last month that the network and major parties are, and I quote, trying to exclude me from their debate because they are afraid I would win. If Americans are ever going to escape the hammerlock of the two-party system, he added, now is the time to do it, Kennedy stated, noting that 43% of Americans identify as independent. Donna in Pulaski, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Donna?
I just wonder, do you really think it'll be Biden or one of his stand-ins in the debate?
I'm of the assumption it's going to be Biden. I see the internet theories about the masks. That doesn't shock me. Presidents having stand-ins for security reasons happen all the time. You could trace body doubles all the way back to George Washington. One of my favorite movies about body doubles, I don't know if you've ever seen this, it's called The Devil's Double. It's about one of Saddam Hussein's sons, and they kidnapped a guy and made him get plastic surgery because he looked a lot like Uday Hussein. Fantastic movie. But this is nothing new. Body doubles are nothing new. I think it's going to be Biden at the debate. My big fear, and one of the things that I would say that the Trump campaign should press for, is Trump keeps pushing for drug tests. I think that we should push for an earpiece check. We should push for a wire check somewhere that would be feeding him answers and audio and all that kind of stuff. I think that is far more important than a drug test.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, appreciate you, Donna. Let's go to Jose in Nashville. Jose, what's up, man?
Hey, man, I've been reading several websites and they talk about Trump raising to date $93 million for his campaign, but Biden to this date has raised $187 million. So, sure, there's instances where Trump will outpace him, but overall, Biden has double the money. So I'm a little bit worried about that. So I want to get your take on that.
Well, stay on the line. We can talk this thing out. As far as the money goes, I mean, Trump got a $100 million from Miriam, a dollar donation from Miriam Adelson. Sheldon Adelson was one of his biggest supporters in 2016. That's his widow. He got $100 million from her. So I think your numbers are a bit off.
Okay. Well, I mean, and I am a little bit worried about it because remember, Rush Limbaugh used to say, "Follow the money, folks. Follow the money." That was one of his sayings, So he can get a lot of money from one source, but you look at Biden's source, he's getting. I don't know. I'm just if he's getting it from multiple sources, that would be an indicator of.
So I'll say this.
I'm looking at different indicators, yeah.
Well, I'll say this. After the 34 convictions, it was something like 30% of the donations that came in wake of those convictions were people that had never donated to a political campaign before. That's energy, man. That like you can't quantify that. 30% of these donations, I think 70% of the donations were small dollar donations. Like that's the people. Joe Biden might be raising a lot of money, but he's raising money via celebrity surrogates like George Clooney and Julia Roberts. He's raising money because he's going out there with Barack Obama in New York City and in San Francisco. He's raising a lot of money that way. It doesn't feel as organic to me. And if Trump has proved anything, you can look at the RNC primaries, right? Trump was outspent by DeSantis. He was outspent by Nikki Haley, and he mopped the floor with them. I don't know
I'm just saying we have to be cautiously optimistic here, and I don't know. I think we need to wake up and not just think like, "Hey, yeah, we have this thing in the bag."
No, I don't.
Get another Biden presidency.
Yeah, I totally
devastating for our country.
I totally agree with you. We shouldn't act like this thing is locked up. I just make the argument that I don't know if fundraising Trump. First of all, I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I think it's going to be a lot closer. I think it's going to be a lot closer than we're making it seem.
Would you do us a favor and actually give us a report on what are the actual? Because you're right. I don't trust these sources that I read. So, could you do us a favor here for the public's sake? And
I'll do a deep dive on fundraising totals. I just don't think that's the end all be all. I really don't. Trump gets so much.
But it's still a very strong indicator. Follow the money. I mean, you look at historically, and I know Trump is an exception, but you look at Bill Clinton versus Dole. You look at Reagan versus Carter. Like all of these presidential races, the guy that would usually have the most bucks would win the election.
Yeah, but those races were different, man, because you needed those advertising dollars to get your message across. You don't need to spend advertising dollars for the memes. And those are being done for free. And Joe Biden is giving us new ones every single day. So there's a negative ad campaign essentially on Joe Biden every single day when you open up Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, go down the line. Social media is doing that for free. And I don't know if you can quantify that kind of ad campaign.
And you're right. I mean, you're right. But it just worries me. I was like, does Joe Biden, this is the root of my comment, does Joe Biden have more support out there in the country than we as conservatives are failing to realize is really what I'm trying to, that's the heart of the issue for me.
I think that you're smart to be thinking like that and trying to get out of your own echo chamber. And I think that a lot of times in Tennessee, we do find ourselves in an echo chamber, but I don't know if he does. I don't know if he does. I don't see small dollar donations. I don't see small dollar donations for Biden.
During the 2020 election, I mean, this guy couldn't even fill a living room, and he still magically won. Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, 4 years ago, had 20,000 people attending to his rallies. So I don't know. This time around, it's like we're dealing with politics in a totally different way.
100%.
And so anyway, I better get off the show.
Nah, man, Jose, I think that was a great call, dude. And you call back anytime. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to look into fundraising dollars for you, all right?
Hey, buddy, whenever you need a co-star, man, I'd be happy to come on board.
All right, bet. Appreciate you.
We'll see you, man. Appreciate you guys.
All right, take it easy. Take it easy. Let's go to Bo, who's on the road right now. Bo, what's up? You're next on Super Talk.
Yeah, hey, guys. Love the show. I wanted to piggyback on what a previous caller said. We kind of ran away with one of his other points. But what he asked was really prolific that there's no answer for, I don't believe, but I'd like to get your opinion. Mm-hmm. What are we doing constantly as Republicans and conservatives? What are our, secret agents doing? What's going on behind the scenes for us to give us an advantage? How come none of that's ever seems to tip in our favor? Why do the Democrats always seem to have the upper hand. It's like a bully in school. They're constantly winning, and we're never coming up with a clever plan to go out and do something to stop it. It just seems a little bit silly. At some point, it's almost comical. And I just want an intelligent answer. What is it? What are we going to do to try to counteract some of the things that they do, whether it's voting, whether it's the tricks with Obama? Where are all the charges against, Biden's family anyways? Where did all of those things go? Where did the Epstein list go? Why does this stuff happen?
Well, I do know that I don't know what happened to the Epstein list. I don't know if we're ever going to see anything from that, which is crazy, right? So let me put that one aside for a second. I do know that James Comer issued a bunch of, what was it? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. He issued a bunch of subpoenas, and they have a 5-year statute of limitations. And James Comer is on record with Maria Bartiromo saying, if this DOJ doesn't want to go after him, the next DOJ will. So am I holding my breath waiting for criminal charges? No. As far as protecting the vote and going after that, I'm just going to say my friends over at Turning Point are actually doing something. There are people in the field that are doing things. Just this morning, Charlie Kirk tweeted out another crop of ballot chasers onboarded and trained with Turning Point Action. And they now have the largest full-time staff on the ground in Wisconsin, growing by the week. They're registering voters. They're chasing ballots. They're putting in work on the ground.
But and I appreciate that. But elected officials, like, who's the next group of, it's fun just to think about. Who's the next group of more aggressive, more assertive, more vocal Republicans or conservatives that will seem to, at least to the public, challenge some of these things? There's always an intelligent answer like the one you just gave, and it all seems behind the scenes. Like, why does it never feel like we're just catching up?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, as far as like that next round of Republicans and conservatives, I look to guys like Josh Hawley. I look to guys like Matt Gaetz. I think Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be an important figure in the conservative movement for years to come. I do think that we have some guys on the bench that are up-and-comers, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Hey, man, thanks so much. It's 1022 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at the Glock Store. I got to tell you, everybody at the Glock Store is the best. They have the nicest staff you will ever meet. When I went down there for my training, I got there super early. Every single employee at the Glock Store greeted me, asked me if I needed help with anything, asked me if there's anything that they could help me find. That if you ever visited the Glock Store, I'm sure you have a similar story. And if you haven't visited the Glock Store, you really should, especially if you have any interest whatsoever in Glock handguns and Glock performance parts. I mean, that's obviously why they call it the Glock Store. If it has anything to do with Glock, anything whatsoever, you can bet it's on the shelf at the Glock Store. And it's a big store, so if you're not sure which shelf it's on, the staff is friendly. They'll help you find it. And if it's not there, they probably have it in the warehouse about to be brought out because they get all the latest stuff. And when it comes to the performance parts for your own Glock, you got to go to the source, and the source is the Glock Store. At the Glock Store, they will install your performance parts for free while you wait. And then after that's all done, you want to try it out, they have the incredible, incomparable Shoot 270 indoor ranges. This is not a lane range nonsense, right? You've been to the gun stores with the lane ranges. That's not what they do at the Glock Store. At the Glock Store, it's a private shooting room. Yeah, a private room for you and an instructor. I've been to a lot of other gun stores, and a lot of them have indoor ranges. But once I found the Glock Store, I knew I'd found my favorite place to buy and to train, especially to train. It's the Glock Store on Air Lane Drive, just off of Elm Hill Pike and Briley Parkway. The Glock Store and GlockStore.com. Minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
Still got a crash reported north of downtown at 65 southbound at Trinity Lane. Police are surrounding a home in Clarksville. Details coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 10:27 on Super Talk. My name is Chris Hand. I was talking about the debate a minute ago. RFK is out. We are a week away. Joe Biden is at camp. And Donald Trump's like, I'm not really preparing. It's going to be so much fun. Can't wait. Can't wait. I did say, I think Trump, instead of pushing for a drug test, should push for a sweep of a wire. They should look for an earpiece. And Adam in Columbia wants to talk about Biden's earpiece as well. What's up, Adam?
Hey, Chris, how are you today, sir?
Good, man. What do you think?
Well, first off, before we get to the earpiece, every time I walk into my bedroom now, and I can imagine President Biden and his Roomba status being stuck between my dresser and chair, just going back and forth. Talking about President Roomba, though, as far as the earpiece goes, we don't need to check beforehand. We just need to we scan all the radio signals, record it, and then lay it over the debate afterwards and put it on the internet for everyone to see.
Oh, I like that idea. That's smooth. Somebody should do that. There'll probably be some meme videos after the fact of just that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the plan. And James Randi did that with one of these guys that's a preacher evangelist that send me your money and everything.
Yep.
And completely ruined him. So it would just be absolutely hilarious to have that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine if there is some sort of earpiece, there's going to be some sort of encryption, or you know what I mean, like. If they're going to go that far, they're going to go all the way. I don't think you're going to be able to pick it up on channel 4 of a walkie-talkie.
But it would be cool if you could.
I'm all for it. But I think that this is much more important than the actual drug test. Let him be hopped up on whatever he wants to be hopped up on. I'm fine with that.
Agreed.
But I also think that lowering the bar is not in our favor, right? I think that we need to understand that Biden is going to come in. He's going to be awake. He's going to be alert. He's going to be ready. And we need to go in with that. We're going into a dogfight. Like, let's get ready. I'm hype.
Let's just let Trump do what he does and let Biden do what he does and let the cards fall where they may.
Amen. I appreciate the call, Adam. Thanks so much. Susan in Spring Hill, real quick. You're on Super Talk. What's up, Susan?
Yes. Has the word Parkinson's ever been bantered about Biden's condition?
Yes, multiple times. Multiple people have made that link. Is that what you think is going on with him?
Yeah. My cousin, who is a doctor, says he definitely thinks he has Parkinson's by just watching him, his hands, his freezing, and all of those symptoms that Parkinson's has. And it just looks like somebody has not made that more aware or something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I hear what you're saying, Susan. I appreciate your call. Everybody says something's going on with him. Is it Parkinson's? Is it dementia? I don't know. It's like you almost hope that there's something at least going on in the background, because you want to think that he's not doing this country this disservice while he has all his mental faculties. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Middle Tennessee, police are surrounding a home in Clarksville. News 2 says it's on Timberline Way, where officers responded to a shooting in progress call earlier this morning. They say there is no threat to anyone nearby. A small town 1 state over is on edge. Bar owner Michelle Cheek, about 50 miles north of Little Rock, Arkansas, where authorities think accused double murderer Stacey Lee Drake may be hiding out.
It's very disturbing, sort of scary, and so just hope and pray they get caught soon.
Drake was seen buying camping gear in Arkansas after the carjacking murders of 2 people in Oklahoma. Charges filed in the death of a University of South Florida student who asked drug dealers for one thing but got another.
The victim had not asked for fentanyl, which is something that we often see in these cases. Instead, the victim asked for and believed that he was receiving Percocet.
United States Attorney, Middle District of Florida, Roger Handberg, charging multiple people. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Today, President Biden will announce that the Department of Homeland Security will take action designed to help U.S. citizens with non-citizens
That's how I would lead off a debate with Joe Biden. You want to be the president for illegal aliens. I want to be the president for American citizens. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, 1037. Find me on Twitter, True Social, at Chris Hand on Air. Instagram as well, at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. There's so many areas that Trump can sink his teeth into in the debate. And there's none more glaring than the wide open southern border. It's devastating what's happening there. Absolutely devastating. And every single day, we get another story. We get another horrifying tale of crime and violence and murder. Or we get a story of just lackadaisical government. I have a story here. The Biden HHS, they released 400,000 illegal immigrant minors into the U.S., mostly teen males, with no oversight. Yeah, sounds like human trafficking to me. The Biden administration's border policies have allowed over 400,000 unaccompanied illegal immigrant minors to be placed throughout the country by the Department of Health and Human Services. However, most of these have been teenage males, and the policies have been implicated in deadly incidents across the U.S. This is the reality of our border under Biden. According to the report from the Congressional Committee, unaccompanied alien children, UACs, if you will, have been crossing the border in increasingly high numbers. Policy for the Biden administration has the Border Patrol refer UAC cases over to the Office of Refugee Resettlement within the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. And more than 400,000 UACs have been referred to a sponsor during the Biden administration alone by HHS. Double that of Trump's whole 4 years in office. Most of these UACs are teenage boys, not infants or small children, the report states. HHS data showed that 70% of these UACs placed by HHS were over the age of 15. Additionally, as the report states, HHS data show that males accounted for 61% of UAC encounters in fiscal year 23, 64% in fiscal year 22, 66% in fiscal year 21. However, other soft policies have allowed gang-affiliated and criminal unaccompanied children to commit heinous acts, including in the widely reported death of Kayla Hamilton. As the Judiciary Committee and Immigration Subcommittee's oversight has shown, HHS's failures have also led to the release of UACs who have gone on to commit egregious crimes against Americans. This is the thing that they always do. Oh, it's just children. Well, this 16-year-old might be a member of MS-13. Don't tell me that he's coming here for a better life and that we have to open the doors for him when they could be gang members. The lack of oversight, the lack of background checks and vetting is leading to a more dangerous America. And they say they're just looking for a better life. Well, tell that to Rachel Marin. Tell that to Rachel Marin, the mother of 5, who was murdered after being raped by an illegal alien. He was looking for a better life too. He came to America with his son, a 2-year-old. You know, they want to pull on your heartstrings and make you think that everybody's coming for a better life. Everybody is. But that's not the reality. It's not the reality at all. Rachel Marin's brother was on Jesse Waters last night, Michael Marin, and Jesse asked him, what would you say to Biden if he were here right now? I feel for the guy. I don't think I can say that on air. Rachel Marin's brother's been giving interviews. Her mother's been giving interviews. They say they don't want to be political, and I understand that. But the situation's inherently political, and it's because of Joe Biden's policies. Rachel Marin's mother, I mean, she explicitly said, my daughter would still be here if they had just left things the way they were under Trump. She's not wrong. She's not wrong, but it hasn't taken much time for the Democrats to blame Republicans for the death of Rachel Marin, the Maryland resident who was raped and murdered allegedly by an illegal alien here in the United States. Law enforcement officials have accused an illegal alien of raping and killing the mother of 5, Rachel Marin, in Bel Air, Maryland. Breitbart News reported recently. The illegal alien from El Salvador, identified as 23-year-old Victor Martinez Hernandez, was arrested on Friday in Tulsa, Oklahoma. In the wake of her horrific murder, both Democrats and Republicans seem to be in an agreement that the southern border crisis bears responsibility for Rachel's death. But some Democrats believe that Republicans should be blamed for not helping pass President Biden's proposed border security bill, which Republicans believed would have been little more than a Band-Aid on a serious problem. The complex legal jargon in the bill invited more wage-cutting migration by minimizing border barriers, mandating catch and release for economic migrants, protecting Biden's parole backdoor for wage-cutting employers, funding more aid for migrants, and even creating an asylum highway overseen by pro-migration corps of asylum officers working outside U.S. courts. Since that bill failed to pass, Democrats are now putting incidents stemming from America's wide-open border on the shoulders of Republicans. Maryland Governor Wes Moore was on Fox and Friends, and he said the border crisis impacts states far beyond Texas and Arizona, and some Democrats believed he was pushing the wrong talking point. Doug Rivlin, Senior Director of Communication at America's Voice, a progressive immigrant advocacy group, told The Hill that Moore is correct that 30-plus years of obstruction of immigration reform by Republicans has consequences for border management, which is why our immigration system is inadequate today. Do you hear that? It's Republicans' fault that Rachel Marin is murdered. It says the reality is that the border and immigration policies have not changed all that significantly in decades, but migration patterns have changed since the 1990s. The world economy has changed since the 1990s, but Congress refuses to meet the moment with legislation to update our laws. We're all paying a price for the politics of nativism gripping the Republican Party. Senator Chris Van Hollen out of Maryland echoed these sentiments in a statement to the Baltimore Sun. He's a Democrat as well. The Marin family deserves more than words. They deserve action. There's no doubt our immigration system is broken. That's why I voted last month to move on to bipartisan legislation that would allow us to begin addressing our border security and comprehensive immigration reforms. But Republicans slammed that door shut. Interesting. Because you ask Rachel Marin's mother, and she says, had we just let the Trump policies remain, instead of reversing all of them the way Biden did, Rachel would still be here today.
It's like we've opened our doors and you let a stranger into your house. Who does that? We're not protecting ourselves. We're not protecting our families. And I think that if they had left things in place, and here I am going, I promise I wouldn't be political, but if we had left things in place, my daughter might still be here today.
She's right, though. The Biden administration spent the first 2 years of their term telling us that the border was secure, telling us there was no issue, and then they pivoted in January, and now it's the Republicans' fault because we won't agree to bipartisan legislation that effectively opens the door wide open. But here we are. They never inform people about H.R. 2, which the House proposed, which was stricter. And they never really identify the truth of the matter, which is We have the resources. We have the manpower. We have the ability to not let a single person cross that southern border. We just don't do it. We just don't do it. And Biden will go out there, and I'm sure at the debate, he's going to say things like, well, I had to take action into my own hands because Republicans wouldn't help me. But even human smugglers say that after the executive order from Biden, nothing has changed at the border. NBC had this report.
Those smugglers are boasting nothing at the border has changed. This smuggler advertising on WhatsApp his menu of available routes for migrants to cross illegally into the U.S.
Yeah, they're just advertising online. No big deal. It's a menu. A la carte. Which way do you want to go? You coming from Mexico City? It's going to cost this much. You want to go to San Diego? It's going to cost this much. You want to go to Arizona? This much. Eagle Pass? Ooh, that's a little bit more expensive these days. This is where we are. Is it surprising to you that a majority of Americans support a deportation effort? This is why I can't buy it when Fox is saying, oh, Trump is losing momentum. Really? Because only one guy is talking about mass deportations, and 62% of the population agrees with that. CBS had a Biden official on, and they were talking about that poll. And the effective answer with how do you respond to this poll was, well, I don't believe it.
And yet, Tom, a lot of voters seem to think it's not the smart thing to do. CBS News polling recently found that 62% of Americans are in favor of a national program to deport all undocumented immigrants, all 11 million of them. So how much support do you think there would be for the White House plan that was announced today?
I'd love to sit down with your polling team and show them how they've gotten this wrong.
Yeah, tell us how we've gotten it wrong. Please tell us how we've gotten it wrong. I don't think that it's wrong at all. I think, if anything, it's probably a little low. Probably a little low. And this is one of the reasons why Trump is so important. We have one guy that is not going to be looking to win another term. I said it all throughout the Republican primaries. One guy is going to run the White House without an eye to being reelected, and that's Donald Trump. One guy is going to be able to advance all these policies and say optics be damned, and that's Donald Trump. If there's one politician I believe will stand by his promise for a mass deportation effort, it's Donald Trump. It has to be. Nobody else has the stones to do it. And Trump himself has acknowledged that the optics are going to be tough because you're going to get that family that looks so sad, looks so sad on the news. But I'll remind you, just because you have kids doesn't mean you're a good person. The alleged murderer of Rachel Marin, the illegal alien, he crossed the border with his 2-year-old. That's not, just because you have a child or a family with you, that's not an indicator that you're immediately a good person. The alleged murderer of Rachel Marin crossed the border illegally with his 2-year-old son. Okay? And he went on to rape and murder a mother of 5. So the optics might be tough, but the reality of the situation is much, much darker. And we got to get it under control. I hope Trump leans in on this at the debate. There's other areas he can lean in on too. He can lean in on the gender confusion. He can lean in on what they're pushing on our kids. He can lean in on the economy. There's so many avenues where it's just going to be a layup drill for Trump. And I've seen a lot of the texts, people saying, Biden is going to be preparing because he already has the questions. That wouldn't shock me. That wouldn't shock me at all. We all know from 2016, Donna Brazile had the questions for Hillary Clinton. Why wouldn't Joe Biden have the questions? I'm not worried about him having the questions. Let him have all the right answers for the prepared questions. Be ready for the curveballs that Trump is going to throw. That's where we're going to see the real Biden. Make no mistake about it. It's 10:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Got some traffic problems out there in Goodlettsville. You got an injury crash, Gallatin Pike near Conference Drive. Then in West Nashville, left 2 lanes blocked, 40 westbound at 46th and 51st Avenue. Then looks like heavy police presence right now in a neighborhood in Clarksville. This is going to be just to the east of Fort Campbell Boulevard and north of 101st Airborne Division Parkway. Got details on it at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. Looking forward to that. Hey, real quick, on the way, 11:05, Don McLean of American Pie fame. He's going to be calling into the show. Really looking forward to the interview. It's one of the most iconic songs in American history. I have a lot of questions I want to ask him, but I also want to, give the floor to you. What do you want to ask Don McLean? Is there ever anything that you've really been interested to get his take on? He's got a new album coming out called American Boys. Or it dropped in May. Sorry, it's a new album out. So we're going to talk to him about that. We're going to talk to him about the songs on the album. We're going to talk to him about American Pie, how he came about it, and how his theory is that music runs parallel with politics. So I'm going to get his thoughts on that a little bit more expanded. But anything you want to ask him, 615-737-9986. Just shoot me a text and I'll make sure to ask Don himself. Right now, Ken Weaver's newscast on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Middle Tennessee, police have a perimeter set up around a home in Clarksville. This is on Timberline Way, where officers responded to a shooting in progress call earlier this morning. Right now, they say there's no threat to anyone else nearby. Meanwhile, one state over.
Morrilton, Arkansas is not far from the Oklahoma community where Stacey Lee Drake is thought to have killed a woman and man and taken their car. Taylor Hickman says Morrilton, population 7,000, is on edge.
It's a small town. A lot of people leave like their doors unlocked and stuff. We didn't even know. We just thought we were still in paradise.
The 50-year-old Drake was spotted buying camping equipment in Morrilton Wednesday. He hasn't been seen since.
That's Jim Ryan reporting. In our nation's capital, the Supreme Court today announcing a decision to uphold a tax on foreign income. The justices ruling in favor of a 2017 tax law that allows the U.S. to issue a one-time tax on profit American businesses make in foreign countries. It was part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, signed by former President Trump. It apportions $340 billion from American investments in companies overseas. Terry Moran says there could be other decisions today on key issues pertaining to former President Trump, Jan 6ers, and abortion.
The justices still have about 21 cases left to decide. That's typical for this time of year. Among them, that blockbuster abortion case out of Idaho. This is the biggest abortion case the court has taken since it overturned Roe versus Wade. And then there's the major case on presidential immunity. Donald Trump is claiming that he is absolutely immune from criminal prosecution for any of his actions trying to overturn the 2020 election, including January 6th, because Trump argues presidents cannot be prosecuted for any official acts they took while in office.
And in Monday News 2 says financial services company Doxo says Nashvillians pay 16% more than the national average on household bills, 27% more than the rest of the state. That comes to about $2,457 a month or $29,478 a year. And that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
11:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, and I'm joined on the phone by a very special guest. He has a new album out now called American Boys. You may know who he is. You've probably heard of him. Don McLean is on the line. Don, how are you, sir?
Well, I got to tell you, that sounded pretty good, that Thunderstorm Girl. I like it.
Hey, I think that's my favorite song on the new album. I listened to a lot of it, and Thunderstorm Girl really rocks, dude.
Wonderful. That's great. If you find one or two, that's enough.
Hey, I'm really impressed, and I'm impressed that you're still out there. You're still making music. How has your process changed from the early days to 2024? From inception to the writing process to even the marketing campaigns. What's changed in the music industry for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the beginning, it was all handmade, and really handmade. And then as it's gone along, it's become more and more computer oriented. If you miss a mix, you couldn't go back and punch that mix in. You had to go find it again. Of course, you couldn't. So a lot of magic was lost in those early days. But now I make the records over the phone. I record my song onto the phone and send it to my producer, Mike Sievers. Hello, Mike, if you're listening out there in Nashville. All my musicians are in Nashville. Everything is in Nashville for me.
You even have you have your name on the Music City Walk of Fame in Nashville.
Yes, I do, and I'm in the Musicians Hall of Fame, which is such an honor because those are the real guys, the Crickets, the Jordanaires, all those people that made this music. And that's the thing about American Boys. This was a song I wrote with Vip Vipperman, who has written hit songs like 1982 for Randy Travis, and other ones I can't remember right now, but he's written a lot of stuff. I've had a lot of help, and Mike Sievers had made these tracks on this record. And we had Home Free, the wonderful vocal group, singing background voices on this, the title track, as well as a couple of others. So I have a lot of help from my friends, just like the song says. And then I go in and put my guitar on and my background voices, and then I sing the lead voices. And we've worked out a kind of an EQ on my voice, which is very nice. But I want to say that I'm really excited about George Strait's, the biggest concert attraction, in all of history for him. There's a guy who really deserves it, and he doesn't run all over the stage, and he doesn't change his costume 40 times, I love it. So God bless him, and that's a wonderful moment, and I hope they taped it. I'd like to see it.
I love it, man. I was thinking about your songs and your career and really kind of diving into the music last night and this past week. And I was talking to a lot of people, and I talked to my dad and my father-in-law, and my father-in-law said, when American Pie came out, he was making a $1.25 an hour pouring concrete.
Wow.
How do you think the American dream has changed since American Pie was released?
Wow, that's a big question. That's a lot of history. You go from roughly after the Kennedy time, you had about 175 million in the country. Now you got about 360 million. In those days, it was a white Christian country. Now it's many different types of folks and all different kinds of religions. We called ourselves a melting pot because, we did want immigrants to come, but we were predominantly white and Christian. Well, we now have got all those elements of a melting pot, but we need to start melting. We need to get rid of hyphenated, this Black American, Indian American. We're Americans. That's the thing.
Yep.
And we got to start realizing we got a new country. And one of the things that I was saying, and again, I'm not political. I am in a very fundamental way, but I'm not right or left. But I see these people wearing these "Make America Great Again." That implies that you don't think America is great now. I think America is great now. I think it's always great.
I think the MAGA stuff goes more to the, not wanting to start new wars, wanting to be energy independent, wanting secure borders. That's the way I picture "Make America Great Again."
Well, I'm all for that, but I'm just saying, and I'm all for all of that. I think that's terrific. But I really do think that we are a great country, and we've always been a great country. And one of the things I like about American Boys is that American Boys invented rock and roll. We invented this music. This comes from the heartland of the country.
Yep.
And country music comes from the heartland. And I think the more we get away from the dirt, the land, the more we get into a virtual world, I think the more we're going to see no kind of music that means anything to me.
Interesting. Now, when American Pie came out, that was still early in your career, and you had Vincent come out. That was before.
Yeah.
Massive songs. Looking back on your career, was that a burden or was that a blessing, having so much success so early?
It was a burden. It was a burden because I was always branded with he can't follow this brand. But as time went on, people began to realize that nobody could follow that. You know what I'm saying? I had other hits, but it didn't make any difference because American Pie is a unique thing. It's not like a hit record. It's like 5 hit records or something.
Yeah.
So
honestly,
as time went on, people began to respect me and what I did, and they began to understand how I think, which is not like other songwriters. It's not like we all think differently, but as a songwriter, I don't shy away from trying anything. And American Pie was trying something that was so far away from anything anybody ever had tried that it would have meant nothing, but it became a #1 record. And that's what launched that form of thinking into the minds of billions of people. And that is a burden. There's no two ways about it.
Did you feel like, I always look at, actors being typecasted, and you can look at like a guy like Adam West, who everybody thought he was Batman, right? Did you feel like you almost were typecasted in a sense where everybody's like, okay, well, we need another American Pie?
Well, that's a very good thing to say because, you see, the difference between me and Adam West is that he didn't own Batman. I own everything. I own the record. I own the song.
Amazing.
So the more people, whatever it is that brings people to Don McLean and his music, all comes back to me because I own everything. That's the big difference.
I love it.
If that song had been written by somebody else and I was responsible for it, then I would be in the Adam West position or the William Boyd who played Hopalong Cassidy for 66 features, but eventually William Boyd ended up owning all those movies and made a fortune. But ownership is the key. Somebody asked Madonna, why aren't you selling your publishing? He said, because ownership is everything. And in my small way, let my fans know I own everything. And I made sure I did that from day one. And I paid a price for that. I was turned down by a lot of record companies. So, that's my story.
Do you think it's easier or harder for young musicians coming up today? And what advice would you give them?
Oh, my God. I don't know what to say to anybody anymore. The world is the world is so far away from anything that I understand. I have no idea how Taylor Swift did what she did. And yet, on the other hand, you have Ed Sheeran. How did he do that? Go out there with his short pants and one guitar and play to 90,000 people. What's that? How can that be?
Yeah.
But, there's all sorts of things now that are shaped by how the internet and all this other stuff reacts to things or to people. And it's a brand new business that's really out of control of the business. I don't think the business understands the business, I'll tell you the truth. I think Taylor Swift understands the business, but even she lost all her masters.
Yep.
Because she said she didn't get the right kind of legal advice when she started.
Do you follow any like pure independent artists and their grind through YouTube, like guys like Tom McDonald?
No, I don't.
Do you?
I don't follow anything. I do what I want to do, and I love what I love, and I don't really care about show business anymore. I love making music. I'm really proud of my album that I've made, this American Boys record, but I say it was made with a lot of friends. I mean, I've known these guys for many, many, many years. Mike Sievers and Vip Vipperman and Kerry Marks and Jerry Kroon. And we did find this Alison Prestwick, I think is her name. Man, what a bass player. I mean, you should listen to this record and just listen to the bass parts this woman's playing. I mean, she's another great Nashville artist. There's so much talent in Nashville. Even the old guys got together, and formed the Time Jumpers, and they're winning, Grammys and everything else. Fabulous group. Doug Green, who's a brilliant singer and a guitar player, and Brad Albin, who plays with him, who was on the bass with me for at least 6 years. I mean, I know all these guys. This is a great town, Nashville. It's unique, full of talent.
No, it's unbelievable. And you're talking about how things have changed, with your recording process, and you're also on tour. You're touring all over the country. What part of it do you like the most currently? Is it writing music? Is it still playing music?
I like being in the airport and watching people walk by, and you see everything there in the airport. You see how decrepit the American population is, and it kind of worries me. You see sadness, you see happiness, you see mothers wheeling children who are paraplegics, and you want to just burst out crying.
Yeah.
What they have to do. I mean, you see a lot. And that is what goes into writing songs. You have to have a heart. You have to have heart. You have to have empathy. You have to care about, you have to put yourself in other people's shoes. It really doesn't make any difference about all that stuff, touring and this and that, because you've got an Ed Sheeran with one guitar and short pants. So what's that to tour with, right?
Yeah.
Right? So that doesn't mean a thing. You don't have to have tractor trailers and all this stuff. It's what you're doing to reach people and how you can use the internet and all the stuff that's going on in order to find your audience. But you have to care. You have to care about people. You have to put yourself in their shoes.
Well, and you figured out how to reach people a long time ago, pre-internet. I mean, even up until today, you have the South Korean president singing American Pie in front of White House guests.
Well, that stuff just happens. I have no idea.
I saw that. I saw that headline.
So hard.
I saw that headline, and I said, "Is this?
You got to see it, though.
Is this the same president that was arrested for being part of the shamanistic witch cult, or is this a new one?" It was the new president.
I don't know about any presidents. I don't know nothing about politics. I stay away from it if I can. I just down the middle. I say what comes in my mind, and no offense meant.
Well, no, but I love it, and I actually saw an interview that you did with Tucker Carlson, and you said said something that really resonated with me. You said music and politics run parallel.
That's right.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
American Pie. See, well, every song I have has a little theory, or it comes to me in a different way. American Pie was actually constructed, and that's why the documentary movie, The Day the Music Died, the story of Don McLean's American Pie, which is on Paramount Plus, so you can get it on Amazon. If you're interested in this song, you have to see this movie, because I learned things about why I did this. I didn't really realize it. And then the documentary filmmaker, Mark Moorman, who was hired by Spencer Proffer, who was the guy behind all of this, Mark Moorman found film footage of me at Newport Folk Festival in 1969. And I'm talking about the moment when I met Phil Everly and I asked him about Buddy Holly. He had the film footage.
No kidding.
Can you believe that? So there I am. And that's how this whole thing is. And what happened when I asked Phil Everly, I asked, what can you tell me about Buddy Holly? I blurted it out. I was just a kid. I was 23 or whatever. He said, well, Buddy died because he had to do his laundry. Now, all my life, since I saw that Buddy had died when I was 14 in the newspapers that I was delivering, and that's the only job I ever had. After that, I made my living with a guitar and a banjo. But after that, I always, that's how, then he said that to me, he took the plane to do his laundry. And I said, oh my God, something happened. All those static pictures you have in your head from the past, and you have them, everybody has them, it all moved. It moved. And all of a sudden, Buddy was alive again. He was alive in my mind. And I went home and I wrote a long, long time ago, melody, lyrics, everything, right through the day the music died. Long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile, the whole thing. I knew if I had my chance. All right through the day the music died. And it's in the movie. You'll see it. I looked at the thing. I said, wow, what's that? That's the only time that ever happened, because I finally captured my boy. I had him. Man. He was mine now. I had him.
I mean, it's an unbelievable song.
I had him.
It means a million different things to a million different people. I remember when COVID shut down Broadway here in Nashville, I remember my wife looking at me and thinking, it feels like American Pie. Is this the day the music died? It's a timeless track. And I know you say that you're not political, but I'm looking at the new album, and I do find one song that stands out to me. And I want to play a clip of it, and I want to get your input on when you wrote it, how you wrote it. It's called The Ballad of George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know when you wrote that song and what your motivation was behind it.
Well, I wasn't going to touch George Floyd, and no other songwriter did either. Springsteen usually would come out with a George Floyd song. I didn't, because I knew it was an incendiary thing. But I watched a video of him saying he couldn't breathe and calling for his mother, and I was a terrible asthmatic when I was a child. Nobody had asthma but me. I would spend many a Christmas inside looking out the window as everybody was playing in the snow. And there would be these terrible times when I really literally couldn't breathe. And I would call for my mother. And she would come into my little bedroom. It was a tiny little room. And she would cry, and I would cry. We'd crying, red face, sweating. The bed would be soaked with sweat. And she would sit me in a chair and try to rub me down with alcohol and change the sheets. And it was awful. And it happened a lot.
Well, I mean, I think the melody... Somehow
or other, when I saw that, I just wrote the song. And I said, And then, of course, a couple of months later, a guy named Kyre Nichols was beat to death by 5 black police officers. It took him 3 days to die. So really, it's just an important song for Americans, and we need to get rid of bad actors in the police department. We need the police. We need the army. Let me just make that perfectly clear.
I think that the thing that I'm stuck on is that we also need to get rid of the bad actors in the media. If you follow the George Floyd case and the Derek Chauvin case, it was proven that his when he was calling for Mama, it was actually in reference to his girlfriend who was saved in his phone as Mama. So he wasn't actually calling out for his mother. He was calling out for his girlfriend who was steps away. And then in the toxicology report, it proved that he was actually high on fentanyl at the time. So I was wondering if you had written this a long time ago, and if your thoughts had changed or evolved since you wrote it.
No, they haven't changed, because if he wants to call his girlfriend Mama, he can, and if he's high on something, so what? You know, half the country's high on something, in case you didn't know. This country's loaded with drugs.
Do you worry?
Than it was in the 1960s. But the 1960s, people tried a little marijuana. Now everybody's on something because doctors prescribe it.
But do you worry that we're platforming somebody as what many view now as a civil rights hero, when the same individual was, arrested for putting a gun to a pregnant black woman's belly? I
just felt what I felt, wrote what I wrote, and said what I said.
No, I hear you, man, and I think the album is out now. It's American Boys. Don McLean, I really appreciate you coming in and joining us on the show.
You, and I appreciate your thoughts about this. I think we should talk more frankly about everything. Thank you for saying what you said.
Yes, no, I'm not, and I'm not trying to pull your card or call you out. I just think that we need to have more conversations.
Nobody can call me out. I'm too old. Don't you understand? I know what I think.
I love it.
It's okay, and I want you to think what you think, and I love it. And thank you for having me.
Hey, I respect the hell out of you, Don. I appreciate the call. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you. Okay, buddy. Bye-bye.
Hey, take care. It's 11:27 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got an injury crash, Gallatin Pike near Conference Drive in Goodlettsville. Then closer to downtown, we got a right shoulder blocked 40 westbound at 46th Avenue and 51st Avenue, exit 205. And in Middle Tennessee, police have set up a perimeter around a home in Clarksville where a shooting was reported earlier this morning. The home is on Timberline Way, just east of Fort Campbell Boulevard, north of 101st Airborne Division. They say it's an isolated incident, no danger to the rest of the neighborhood. A ruling from the Supreme Court today could have implications in the debates over whether Congress can or should pass a federal tax on wealth. The case involved a couple that invested in a small firm based in India and whether they should have been made to pay a one-time repatriation tax on the company's profits despite not first receiving a dividend from the firm. The High Court said yes. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. It's 11:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, here for my friends at Paul Winkler, Inc. Have you made... Hey, there's Paul in the window there. He just totally threw me off. I'm doing my commercial for Paul, and Paul walks by. If you say Paul's name in the mirror 3 times, he will pop up behind you with investment advice. That's how this stuff works. Paul's been hosting the Investor Coaching Show on WTN. It's an awesome show. He's been hosting the show for like 20 years. I listened to the show before I got my show here, learned a lot from Paul, and when I got my show here, when I came on board at WTN, I knew I wanted to work with Paul, and it's because his team hold themselves to the highest level of fiduciary status. Because of that, Paul wants to make sure I tell you that I get paid when I do these commercials. He wants to start out the relationship with honesty and transparency. I love that. Where else do you hear that? I also want to know where else you hear that Paul's team does nothing on commission. They really focus on education, though. They want to educate you every step of the way so you never get that feeling, that uneasy feeling of blind trust. Paul's team's going to take a look at your whole financial picture because that is unique to you, and then they'll help you make decisions. But it starts by setting up a 15-minute phone call. Set your phone call up today. Get the ball rolling downhill for your financial future by going to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. You know the deal. When it comes to large home repairs, as homeowners, we don't want to see the warning signs because you're like, I don't want to know what this means. And this is especially true with waterproofing and foundation repair. This could be something big that has to be fixed. Could be something small that will become bigger if we ignore it. Or it could be nothing. But the bottom line is we don't know, and we certainly don't want to be sold something we don't need. We just want peace of mind. And United Structural Systems, they're the company to give that. They have over 25,000 100% satisfied residential customers. And they've made that happen by decades of being the most honest, the most transparent. When USS comes out to your house, you're going to get problem solvers providing peace of mind to you. You're not going to get someone who's worried about meeting a sales quota. You're not going to get somebody who's worried about upselling you to the next big thing. You're going to get somebody there to educate you and help you understand what's happening with your home. At USS, that's their only measure of success. How satisfied you, the homeowner, is, not some closing ratio. That attitude is what's kept them in business for over 25 years. If you have some foundation repair or waterproofing work that you need to be done, you're going to also get the peace of mind knowing that USS is going to give you the honest truth and stand by their work and warranties. That's huge. If you ever have a warranty issue, USS is going to come out and fix it. This is the company that cares and the company that you can trust. And now they're offering mold treatment, the RTE solution, remove, treat, and cap. It's the perfect time because if you get water coming in, the humidity that we're having, you're gonna get some mold too. And maybe you're noticing that mold and you don't even know it. Are you smelling musty smells in your house? Are your allergies feeling kicked up and you're dealing with more respiratory issues? That could be because you have mold in your crawl space. Those mold spores will travel up into your home and into the air you breathe. Turn your crawl space into a healthy space with United Structural Systems' complete microbial growth treatment. They're not just going to treat the mold. They're going to treat any type of growth that could be eating away at your floor joists. If you have moisture in that crawl space, you probably have mold. And if that's the case, you definitely should call USS, United Structural Systems. The number is 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Western Kentucky. Online at USSTN.com. $11:39 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thanks again to Don McLean for coming on the show a little while ago. We're going to get that interview podcasted as soon as we can. So if you missed it, you want to hear it again, it'll be on Apple and Spotify. Just search for The Chris Hand Show on your favorite podcast platform. And then I got kids, so please rate it 5 stars and click subscribe. Not for me, but for the kids. They appreciate it. They're growing and they're hungry. We should start doing like the Sally Struthers music whenever I need. Like when I start playing the emotion for the kids, please click like and subscribe. I have hungry kids. many hungry kids.
Or there's like the same music that plays over those sad dog commercials.
Yeah. If you can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. There's a couple rando stories that I wanted to get to. But first, I've been teasing this all day, and it's something that I think needs to be covered. The Kansas Attorney General has filed a suit against Pfizer. And this is really, really interesting. There's a lawsuit that's being filed against Pfizer for false marketing claims. They're claiming that Pfizer misled Americans with the COVID-19 vaccine marketing. The Kansas Attorney General is suing Pfizer. False and misleading marketing over the COVID-19 vaccine. He filed a lawsuit Monday. Chris Kabosh accused the New York-based pharmaceutical giant of downplaying the risks associated with the jab and making unsubstantiated claims about its effectiveness.
Today, Kansas is filing a civil suit against the Pfizer Corporation under the Kansas Consumer Protection Act, seeking enhanced civil monetary penalties, damages, and injunctive relief for misleading and deceptive statements made in marketing its COVID-19 vaccine. As we all know, during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a great deal of panic and anxiety. Many people who were elderly or who suffered from various medical conditions had already died when the vaccines became available. And when that time came, when the vaccines became available, every one of us had to make two decisions. Am I going to take the vaccine? And if so, which vaccine will I choose to take?
Yeah, it seemed like that was the choice we had to make. Now, Kansas is not the only state suing Pfizer. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a similar lawsuit against the drug maker last year. Pfizer does claim that the pending litigation has no merit, but the Attorney General out of Kansas, Chris Kabosh, he says there is merit to his claims, and he talked about that decision. You know, are you going to get the vaccine, and if so, which one? And he says that these decisions people were forced to make were in a hurry at best and under duress at worst.
And these decisions were being made in a hurry. In some ways, you could say even being made under duress. In such an environment, it is imperative that Kansans making that decision receive the truth. They needed the truth. All Americans needed the truth. And in multiple respects, Pfizer did not provide the truth.
No, and there was all sorts of theories about the testing that was done on the internet, and a lot of those questions were kiboshed, no pun intended. They were shut down. You weren't allowed to ask those questions. You weren't allowed to have that conversation. And he says there were a lot of real questions that needed to be answered. Like, for instance, Pfizer said the vaccine was safe for pregnant women. Was it? Is it?
Pfizer marketed its vaccine as safe for pregnant women. However, in February of 2021, Pfizer possessed reports for 458 pregnant women who received Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine during pregnancy. More than half of the pregnant women reported an adverse event, and more than 10% reported a miscarriage, many within days of the vaccination. Pfizer also possessed information from its own October 2020 study on pregnancy in rats, indicating that its COVID-19 vaccine was likely linked to infertility, loss of litters, and stillborn offspring.
So that's the Attorney General of Kansas, Chris Kabosh, and he's saying that Pfizer said it was safe for pregnant women, but he's also saying that Pfizer in 2021 had receipts that it was linked to adverse reactions, that it was linked to miscarriages, that the studies in rats even linked it to infertility. That's scary. That's scary because we didn't get that information at the time from Pfizer. Pfizer also didn't really warn anybody about myocarditis. And the Attorney General out of Kansas brings that up as well.
Pfizer consistently denied any evidence of a connection or safety signal between its COVID-19 vaccine and myocarditis or pericarditis. Indeed, on January 18th, 2023, when asked whether its vaccine caused strokes or myocarditis, Pfizer Chairman and CEO Alan Berla stated, quote, "We've not seen a single signal, although we have distributed billions of doses," end quote. A signal that he was referring to as a safety signal, which refers to a negative consequence. However, as Pfizer knew, the United States government, the United States military, foreign governments, and others had found that Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine caused myocarditis and pericarditis.
It caused myocarditis and pericarditis. And I was corrected by a friend on Twitter. It's Chris Kobach, not Kabosh. That's the Attorney General for Kansas. But the fact remains, they're suing Pfizer in the state of Kansas for misleading advertising when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccine. They cite pregnancy issues. Was it safe for women? They cite the receipts that Pfizer had that says there were adverse events, there were miscarriages. In the studies with rats, there was infertility. He talks about myocarditis and pericarditis. And then he goes on to say, Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach, he nails Pfizer on the claims that this vaccine protected against variants and stopping transmission.
Pfizer also claimed that its COVID-19 vaccine protected against COVID-19 variants, even though data available at the time showed Pfizer's vaccine was effective less than half the time against variants. Pfizer urged Americans to get vaccinated in order to protect their loved ones, clearly indicating a claim that Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccination stopped transmission of COVID-19. Pfizer later admitted that it had never even studied transmission of it after its recipients received the vaccine and whether they could say it stopped transmission.
They never even studied it, Pfizer later revealed. It's like the further we get away from the COVID stuff, the more evil it really seemed. So you're telling me that Pfizer had receipts on the studies with pregnant women and didn't tell anybody? That's what Attorney General Chris Kobach out of Kansas says. He also says that they had the receipts on myocarditis and pericarditis. And he says they didn't have the receipts on protecting against stopping transmission because, well, they actually never studied whether the vaccine would stop transmission. And then the coup de grace, if you will, after making all of these claims that it was safe, that it was effective, that it would stop transmission, after implying these things were the reality, well, when people questioned it, Pfizer attempted to censor people on social media.
After making these misleading statements, Pfizer also engaged in some censorship attempts. Emails reveal that Pfizer officials coordinated with social media platforms to censor any speech critical of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine safety and effectiveness. Pfizer's misleading statements contributed to success in marketing its vaccine in Kansas. By February of 2024, Pfizer had delivered over 3.3 million doses of its vaccine in the state of Kansas. This accounted for over 60% of all vaccine doses given in the state of Kansas. This suit is being filed today, and as I mentioned before, it is part of a multi-state effort in which more suits may follow depending on Pfizer's reaction.
That's Attorney General of Kansas, Chris Kobach. Not Kabak, Kobach. I'm still butchering his name. I'm doing my best. I love what he's doing. Call them out. Make them produce the receipts. Make them prove what they said. I don't know if they can. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Talk 99.7. 11:56 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Matt Murphy in studio.
Nothing makes you feel odder as a talk show host.
Right?
When you start going and you can't hear anything, you feel so alone and cold and isolated.
Well, we had to record a spec spot.
Fearful.
We had to record a spec spot in between the breaks, so he took the mic out of program.
Oh, no, I get it.
It didn't get put back into program.
I get it.
I just like to keep you guessing.
It's inside baseball. If it's in program, you hear it over the air. If it's not in program, you don't.
I don't think you have to do that anymore, no. They've made this. It's like a Rube.
I tried to do it over here.
It's like a Rube Goldberg thing, and I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like one of those. Let's make some eggs, and there's all those wheels spinning, and the things going, and the balls rolling down and moving around, and I'm like, I just want to make some eggs.
I had eggs for dinner last night.
Did you? I had eggs for breakfast.
All right,
eggs, little broccoli, mushrooms,
broccoli.
Yeah,
with the eggs,
keeping them healthy.
Yeah. Like a little omelette.
Omelette. I appreciate
veggie omelette.
I appreciate a veggie omelet. I'm not knocking it.
It sounds like you're knocking it.
I'm knocking the inclusion of broccoli in the omelet.
Okay. I'm a big fan of broccoli.
I'm not. Well, how much stock?
I mean, I know that I look too fat to be a big fan of it. That's fine.
No.
That's fine.
You look like a big fan. How much of the stock are we talking in this omelet? I'm picturing this lumpy.
No. It's just one can. It's a can of the canned mushrooms that you get at like the big box store, right? They have a case of them, and I like those because they're no calorie. They're like 25 calories a can or whatever, and so it's good filler for a variety of things. And so I'll put those in there, and then I'll chop up some broccoli, put that in there in the pan, get that going, maybe some onion, get that going, and then you do the eggs, and it's really more like egg bowl than egg omelet.
Okay, I'm 35 years old. I've never heard of broccoli in an omelet.
It's a 200-calorie breakfast.
I mean, it's a good breakfast.
Yeah. Hot sauce on there. Or alternatively, what I did this morning, and this will gross the listeners out. Come at me, bro. I don't mind. Mustard. That's the reaction I always get.
I'm not even a ketchup on eggs guy.
No. I'm not a ketchup guy at all. I don't use ketchup on anything. I use anywhere that normal people use ketchup, I use mustard. Fries, hash browns, the whole bit.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Big fan.
Huge fan.
Big fan.
See, when I do my omelets, it's more like chorizo, black beans, tomatoes, green chilies.
Oh, I dig that now.
That's money.
I dig some huevos rancheros on the weekends, too. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
It's good.
Do you have a huevos rancheros spot in town?
No, I don't. I'd like one.
My wife is a huge huevos rancheros fan, and we haven't found a spot in Nashville. So, challenge to the super texters. Give me a huevos rancheros spot. Preferably near Murfreesboro.
I can tell you the best huevos rancheros I've ever had is in Roswell, New Mexico. And they do it Christmas style.
Ooh, what's Christmas style?
That's you get half red sauce, half green sauce.
I like the sound.
Come on, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Good.
It's around lunch. I'm a little hungry. You want to get a lunch?
I would much rather be
Hey, can y'all handle this, Mason? We're going to get a lunch.
No broccoli.
You don't have to have broccoli.
Yeah, we're not doing that. What do you got coming up on the show today, Murph?
We've got a further expose. I'm asking a question. I started this question yesterday afternoon when I filled in for Brian Wilson on the drive, and I want to continue the discussion. So there's a big expose on Texas Children's Hospital, right?
Yep.
And a whistleblower, Christopher Rufo, blew the roof off of that, and a couple of whistleblowers that communicated with him. I want to know in Tennessee who's checking behind Vanderbilt Medical University to make sure that they're not doing the same thing that Texas Children's Hospital is doing.
And did you see the FBI knocking on the door of the nurse involved in that as well?
It's insane.
Insanity.
And I just a simple question: who's monitoring Vandy to make sure Vandy's telling the truth? Are we just taking their word?
Who's watching the Watchmen?
Right. All right. Exactly right. So we'll start there.
I love it. I think that's a great topic. Murphy's the guy to tackle it. It's 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.